Thanks for joining me. In this particular session, we're going to discuss the basic method or approach to Microsoft Excel. It's referred to as the beginner's guide to Microsoft Excel. We're going to put together a very simple spreadsheet, and I hope that the way we go about it or the way that I instruct you will be a way that you will comprehend and retain the information. However, I would like for you to know that there's more than one way to format a spreadsheet. That being said, let's get started. Okay, so we are viewing the Windows desktop. In my case, it's the Windows 10 version. I'm not sure if you have Apple or another product, but I'm using Windows 10. Okay, so with me using Windows 10, I am going to scroll down to the little flag here. This is the Windows icon, and I'm going to click on it. As you can see, a number of items have appeared. Now, these are all items that I've used before or I've used regularly, so I've saved them to this particular shortcut. However, you may have different items if you have Windows 10. Because I've used Excel 2010 very recently, it has been saved here automatically. Now, it may not be that easy for you to find. I would certainly encourage you to put it in a location where you can find it easily. You can save it to your desktop or your taskbar down here at the bottom. But in my case, I have it saved to the desktop, so I really didn't have to click on this. I could have simply clicked on the icon in my taskbar or on my desktop. Nevertheless, to make a long story short, if it's not already too late, I'm going to click on it here, okay? And we're going to go ahead and go to the spreadsheet. Okay, before we get started with the Excel experience, it's important for you to understand the terminology that I'm going to be using throughout the process. In my opinion, by understanding the words that I'm using, it makes far more sense to you as we go through the formatting process. Here you'll see that I have keywords that I have outlined, and these are all words that are used very often in the Excel world. All right, for instance, the quick access toolbar, as you can see here, the tabs, home ribbon, command group, status bar, minimize, resize, and close button, the dialog box launcher, font, cell, border, formula bar, alignment, merge cells, value, row, and auto sum. So now that we've identified the terminology or terms that we're going to be using when formatting a spreadsheet, let's take a look at the role that each plays in the process. For instance, the quick access toolbar. This is viewed as the quick access toolbar. On the quick access toolbar, you have different items such as the save feature, which is a floppy disk. You have an undo and redo. You have a printer. You have a quick print preview. You have sorting. You have spell check. And by clicking on this drop down arrow, you can see even more things that you can save to the quick access toolbar. What that does is it prevents you from having to go throughout the spreadsheet tabs looking for the print function or the save function. Everything is right here. You also now have tabs, and the tabs are located at the very top of the page. You have the file tab, which again you can save here, you can print here, again you can send emails and on and on and on with this particular tab. Going back to the home tab, of course, we'll go over these in a few minutes. You have the insert tab, the page layout, and all of these are very, very important features to Excel, especially as you move on and you become more advanced in creating a spreadsheet. Okay, we have the home ribbon. Now, in my opinion, the home ribbon is probably the most important feature of formatting a spreadsheet. It's located at the very top of the Excel spreadsheet, and you'll notice that there are many, many items that are contained within the home ribbon. This is where you actually do the vast majority of the formats. It contains many command groups, and they're very simple once you get used to them, and they're very, very important features. You also have the command groups. That is what you see down below. You have the clipboard command group. That's everything between here and here. You have the font command group. That's everything between this line and this line. And then, of course, you have alignment and numbers and styles and cells. Uh, so this is pretty much everything you will need when completing a spreadsheet. Okay. You also have the status bar, which is located very bottom of the spreadsheet. Here it says ready, which means that it is in a position for us to now begin creating functions or inputting values. Once we begin the process, this is going to change to the word edit or enter, which means that we have to continue on with what we're doing until we finish. And once we click off that particular cell, it will return to the ready status. All right. You have minimize, resize, and close button. They're located to the far right. They're here. This is the minimize, this is the resize, and that's the close button. In fact, a great opportunity to show the use of the minimize button is actually during this tutorial. For instance, you would like to work on your spreadsheet while watching the tutorial on the website. Well, you can actually do that. You will note here that I actually have the actual Excel spreadsheet open. Clearly, it's on the desktop and it is also highlighted in the taskbar. But I also have the Internet Explorer open. It is also highlighted in the taskbar. So what I can do at this particular time is I can go between the two. Now, clearly we would like to go ahead and view the website. So at this point, you're going to listen to a few items during the tutorial, click pause, and you're going to come to the minimize button and click on it. At this point, you now have your spreadsheet back on the desktop. Here, input the steps of the tutorial, return to the website by going down to the taskbar and clicking on the internet once, and resume watching the tutorial. And you can do this throughout the tutorial. It's just a thought. You have the dialog box launcher. That is the small little arrow you see here at the very corner of the command groups. When I click on that little arrow, a box will appear. Because I clicked on the alignment command group, the alignment tab opened. All right, but we're going to be using this dialog box quite a bit in the formatting process. All right, you have fonts. Basically, what you see here in red, the written material, these are viewed as fonts. They are basically change. You can change the style of it, the size of it. You can make it bold, italic. You can do a lot of things with them, and that is referred to as a font, the changes that you make. Cells. If I were to come over here and click on this block right here, that is referred to as a cell in the Excel language. All right, not a box or a block, but a cell. Border. That is basically the black perimeter of a cell. What you see here will be referred to as a border. All right, we will be creating borders. You have a formula bar. It's going to play a very, very important role. In fact, you'll probably really enjoy this more than anything. Okay, you have the alignment, and this is the alignment command group. We're gonna show you that and how it works. We have merge cells. This is when you take multiple cells. For instance, I'm taking 3 cells, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to consolidate them into one cell. That is referred to as a merge cell. You have values right here. So anything that is written inside of a cell is now referred to as a value. All right, so the item that is input into a cell is referred to as a value. Okay, and then you have row. Right here, this is a row. If I were to come over here to this number 8 and click on it with the arrow pointing to the right, the row will be highlighted. Okay. Columns. Now, columns is something that I don't have written here, but it needs to be written. So write column on the line below here, and that is this. Okay. So by clicking on this letter E with the arrow pointing down, a column has been highlighted. All right. So these are all things that we're going to discuss. All right. And then you have AutoSum. AutoSum is located here. And again, it is going to be in a formula type aspect, something that we're going to go over near the end of the formatting of the spreadsheet. But in the meantime, I hope that you are prepared and that you are excited as I am to get started. All right. Now that we're getting started, it's important for me to say this. When formatting a spreadsheet, it's extremely important that you have something in mind before placing anything on the spreadsheet. It's important to identify what exactly it is you're going to be placing on the spreadsheet and how you want the spreadsheet to look. What you see here is the spreadsheet that I'm going to be tutoring you on. But before starting on the spreadsheet, I at least had a very good idea as to what it was I wanted to be placed on the spreadsheet, and as a result, how I would want it to be formatted, as seen here. As part of the tutoring process, we're going to actually go between the finished product that you saw earlier and the steps as we move forward. I feel like that would actually help you to see how things are progressing. So at the very bottom of the Excel spreadsheet, I have a tutor spreadsheet, which is the one that you and I are going to be working on. And I have the sample spreadsheet. This is the finished product. I will be going between the two as we move forward so that you can kind of see progress as we move. All right. So let's start here with the sample spreadsheet. In the sample spreadsheet, there are 4 columns that we're going to be utilizing. All right. That's column A through D. Letters represent columns, and we have 7 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And rows are represented by numbers. All right. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but each column is the exact same width. That is by design. That is not a particular standard. It was just my preference. The same applies to the rows. All of the rows are the exact same in height. Again, just my preference. It is how I wanted the spreadsheet to look when printed on an actual page. Okay, so now we're going to go back over to the tutorial. Now, what we're going to look at this point is what are we going to place on the spreadsheet. I'm going to give you a scenario because I want you to see that there are multiple ways when formatting a spreadsheet. In this particular case, I'm thinking about, for instance, I'm going to use a first and a last name. I'm going to use a birthday. In other words, the spreadsheet needs to have columns that are going to be various width, not the same as you saw before. If you look back over here, I'll remind you that each of the columns were the exact same width. However, in many cases, maybe even in most cases, people prefer to have them various sizes based on the type of information they're going to put in. For instance, if I were going to input a first and a last name into one column or one cell, then I would want to manually move the column over by placing my mouse between the A and the B. And it has to be on the letters, not down in this content area, but literally in between the letters A and B. Now I'm going to say that my next column, I'm going to want to put a birthday. Well, we know that the birthdays tends not to be as long as the first and last name, so we're not going to need as much of a width between in this particular column. So we're going to put the social security number, which may be slightly longer than a birthday if you're using only numbers, not actual letters, but just numbers. Then the birthdays does not require as much room as a social security number. And for the last row or last column, we're going to stretch it all the way over here because we're going to want to input the complete physical address, including the city, state, and zip code. So if we were going to input that type of information in, then I would say let's go ahead and manually move each column based on what we expect to put in each column. All right. Now, this is where the undo and redo icon comes in at. This is the undo. Now, I'm going to basically reverse everything I did by simply clicking on the undo arrow until it is no longer highlighted. You'll notice, however, that the redo arrow has now been highlighted, and if I do a redo, it literally puts everything back the way it was all the way up until the very end, which is no longer highlighted. So let's once again, we're going to undo, and at this point I'm going to now format the spreadsheet to have all columns that are equally sized and width. Alright, so I'm going to go back through this particular page, and I'm going to position my mouse on the letter A, hold down on the left side of the mouse, and I'm going to drag my mouse over to column D. That's 4 columns. Alright, remember, keep the mouse on the letters. Do not allow the mouse to drop down in the content area. Alright, now that that area has been highlighted, I'm going to come over to where it says format. Alright, and there's a little drop down arrow, as you can see, and we're going to click on the drop down arrow, and we're going to find where it says column width, because that is what we are targeting right now, the columns. Alright, what you see inside is the default number or width of the columns. I want to change that to 25, and I'm going to click OK. Now you'll notice the highlighted areas spread it farther into the page, and if you click away, you can see now that we have columns that are far wider than the default columns that were there before. So we are now one step closer. Now we're going to do the same thing with the rows. We're going to come over, we're going to position our mouse on the number 1, and we're going to hold down on the left side of the mouse, and we're going to come down 7 rows. Remember, there are 7 rows that we're discussing over here. Alright, so let's look at that again. Again, that's 7 rows. And once again, we're going to go back over to the format icon, and now we're looking at the row height, and we're going to click on it. And again, the default height is 14.4 in this particular case. It may be different on your computer. It just depends on the size of the monitor. In this particular case, again, we're going to type in on the keyboard 25, and we're going to click OK. And once again, you notice that the highlighted area spread the screen a bit more. All right, so we're going to now click on cell A1. Remember, these are cells, they're not boxes, and each cell has a name, and you can see here that A1 appeared. If I were to click here, it would now be C6, which is column C, row 6. All right, so we have concluded that we're going to use 4 columns and 7 rows in our spreadsheet format. The next thing we're going to do now is determine what other features we want the page to have. And I would like for it to have borders. For instance, let me show you. Remember, the borders are the outline of each cell, and you can clearly see them. If you were to look over to this side of the page, the lines are actually very light, whereas compared to over here, you can actually see the lines a lot better. Now these are borders that we actually created. The important thing about borders is that when you get ready to print a page or review what the page looks like in the printed form, you can better see it. For instance, clearly you can see what the page is going to look like, and it looks very nice, very crisp, very clean. However, if I were to come down to the page that we're currently working on, and I were to type something in and decide that I'm going to leave it like this, this is what you will see on a printed page. Nothing more than the written material or the values that are placed in the cell. You will not see any lines at all. That is not what we want. Okay, so again, we're going to now focus on creating borders. Like so many aspects of Microsoft Excel, there are multiple ways to create borders, and 2 of the ways that I'm going to show you. One will involve simply coming up to the home ribbon and clicking on this drop down arrow here, and the second way would be to go to the corner of any command group in this particular case the font command group, and clicking on what's called a dialog box launcher. By doing so, a dialog box will appear. It is important to become familiar with this dialog box, so we're going to use it as well as the home ribbon while creating the spreadsheet. Referring back to this finished spreadsheet, we're going to talk a little bit more about the dialog box. You'll notice that in this particular spreadsheet you have color. You have two shades of color, and you also have color in the title. Well, one of the ways that we're going to use to achieve this color is the dialog box. And once again, you can click on the drop down arrow right in the font command group. All right, in this dialog box, you'll notice again that there are tabs. All right, and many of these tabs, as I mentioned earlier, are in the home ribbon. But in using the dialog box, clearly you can see this color. The field tab is where you would find the background color. And of course, the borders are here, and we're going to create the borders using the dialog box as well. All right. At this point, we're going to return to the tutorial. And we're going to now focus on creating borders. We're going to position our mouse on cell A1. Again, all of the cells have names. As you can see here, we're on A1 at this particular time. We're going to also now hold down on the left side of our mouse, and we're going to drag the desired columns. All right, that's A through D. We're going to also drag down the desired rows. In this particular case, we're not going to go down to 7. We're going to stop at 6. You'll understand a little bit later why I'm doing it this way. All right. Now, we're also going to focus on the dialog box and not the home ribbon at this particular time. So we're going to click on the dialog box launcher, this little arrow here, and you'll notice again that the dialog box appeared. We're now focusing on borders. So the border tab is what we're going to click on. Now, it is important for you to realize that only the area that is highlighted on the spreadsheet will be impacted when we click on the borders. All right. So we're going to now click on the outline, and we're going to click on the inside. As you can see, nothing occurred on the spreadsheet until we click OK. And now you see the borders. As mentioned before, there are multiple ways to format a spreadsheet, and creating borders are no different. But first, let's undo what we've done so far. So we're going to go over here to the undo arrow, and we're just going to click on it one time to remove the borders. Now we're going to show you how to create borders using the home ribbon. In all honesty, it is the way that most people do it, and that is by simply going straight to the home ribbon, locating the border icon. All right. Now, for the most part, most people, if you're not familiar with Excel, you don't realize how valuable and how convenient most of the tools are when creating a spreadsheet. So that's why I'm showing you both. Right. In this particular case, there's a small box that sits right here in the font command group. It is the border box. If you were to click on the arrow next to it, you will have a list of options. And one of those options, guess what? It is all borders. And if you were to click on it, you will have borders in just 2 steps, as opposed to the 4 steps, or if not more, that we use using a dialog box. Now, the question you may be asking at this particular point is, well, why use the dialog box at all? Well, the dialog box is an extremely valuable tool and very useful, especially if you're going to take a test online. Believe it or not, it is very common to use the dialog box when taking the test online, though it may seem a bit odd when compared to other approaches. But nevertheless, it is a very useful tool and one that you should definitely learn how to use. Now that we've created the borders, it's time to move on to the next step. So let's once again go over and visit our sample page. You'll notice here that there are borders with the exception of one row, and that is row 1. There are no borders in the title area. Well, clearly that would not look so pleasing if we had a title that crossed over between columns and you had borders in between the letters. So what we've done here is we've merged the cells. We've basically taken cells from column A through D, and we've combined them to create one actual cell. That cell is still given the name of A1. So let's go back to our tutorial, and we're going to position our mouse on cell A1. We're going to hold down on the left side of the mouse and drag it all the way over to column D. Make sure you stay on row 1. Now we're going to, again, take two approaches. The first being the dialog box. So we are going to, again, we can click on any of the dialog box launchers, but we're going to basically, in this particular case, choose the alignment dialog box launcher, because when we input the title, we're going to have to align it. As you can see, the dialog box appeared, and the tab that it opened on was the alignment tab. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look for the word merge, and we can find it right here in merge cells, and we're going to click on it. All right. Now, when you click on it, you'll notice that there are directions. This right here is content. You can enter the title from left to right or from right to left. Unfortunately, those are the only two options, but we'll go over that in a few minutes. All right. So we're not going to do anything in that particular area at this particular time. We're just going to click OK. And you'll now notice that the borders or the lines have all disappeared on row 1. This is now considered a merge cell. You will also note that the wording merge and center in the home ribbon has been highlighted. At this point, if we were to come to the merge cell and decide to type something in it, I'm just going to scribble something here, you'll notice it actually positions itself to the left of the merge cell. So let's click away, and you'll notice that it stays to the left. Well, that's not what we want. So let's delete that, and let's focus here on the alignment area. This is the alignment area, okay? So once again, I'm going to type something in using the process that we've just used. I'm going to click away. And this is key in the learning process. You always want to click away to change the status bar. The status bar currently says ready. When I type something in, you'll notice that the status bar says enter. Now you won't be able to do anything else at this point, because you'll also notice that the ribbon is no longer lighted up with multiple colors, which means that it's basically in a holding mode. All right. So in order to go to the next step, you need to click away or click on something else. This is just in the learning stage. As time moves on and you continue to get faster and know exactly what you're doing, you won't have to click away. You'll just simply click to the next step. All right. But for now, we're going to say click away. All right. Click off the cell that you're actually working on. So that being said, let's go back down to the merge cell, and we're going to click on it. At this point, we want to center the value or the wording or the information that's placed in the merge cell. To do this, we must now go up to the alignment command group. What you see here are all of the functions for an alignment, including here as well. So if you were to look here, basically this is where the wording or the value is positioned lowest in the cell. Basically, it's positioned right above the line. If you were to click here, you'll notice that it will rise up to the center of the cell, and here it goes to the top of the cell. However, we want to go ahead and keep it next, just above the line, and we want to, if you'll notice here, we want to position it center. Now, if we were to click here, it would be aligned to the far right. If we were to click here, it would go back to the far left. However, we want to center it here. And this is all a part of merging a cell and aligning it so that the value or the material that's written inside is actually centered or aligned in the exact position that we would like for it to be. Now let's refer back to the sample page. You'll notice here that in the title area that's merged, the print is slightly larger and it is centered actually in the middle, not just centered in the cell, but in the middle of the cell. You also have a background color. So we're going to focus now on creating the fonts that are desirable as well as a background color that is desirable. But first, we're going to take a step back and show you how to create a merge cell using the actual home ribbon. Let's start by removing what we have here, and we're going to go up to the merge function. It's highlighted currently. When you click on it, it will actually remove the merge cell as you've seen it. All right. So when merging the cell using the home ribbon, you use the same process up to a point. So here we're going to click on cell A1 and we're going to hold down on the left side of the mouse, scroll over to D as before, but only we're not going to click on the alignment dialog box launcher and refer to the dialog box. We're not going to do that. So I'm going to click cancel. In this case, we're going to go straight to the home ribbon, locate the merge and center function and click on it. And when we click on it, guess what? You have a merge cell. And not only do you have a merge cell, you actually can write the content inside the merge cell and notice that it is already centered. It is as simple as that. Let's go ahead now and delete the material that we have written. And we're going to go ahead and type in Hudson's office supplies. You'll notice here that I went ahead and put them in all caps. Just wanted to make it look exactly the way the sample page is. And I'm going to click away. Now, you'll notice the difference between what you see on the tutorial page and what you see on the actual sample page. The print or the font is much larger, much more standout, and that is exactly what we're going to do on the tutorial page. So the first thing we're going to do is go back to the title, and we're going to click on the dialog box launcher for fonts. All right. You'll notice that when the dialog box opened, it opened on the front font tab. We now are going to come down to size 16 and bold. And you'll notice that whenever we click on each, there was a change that occurred in the preview box. So what you see now is a bold size 16 font. By clicking on OK, you can see that it actually changed. Now we're going to also make a slight change in the alignment. Here, the title is actually listed right above the line. I want it to be centered. Again, if you were to look over here, you can tell there's a little bit more space between the letters and the line. I want the same thing to occur here. So we're going to come up to the alignment command group and we're going to click on the second step. All right. So I refer to these alignments as steps. This is the lower step. This is the second step. This is the third step. And each step you go higher and higher, just like a pair of stairs. All right. So we're going to stay on the second step, and you can see that the title is now actually centered in the middle of the cell. All right. So just in case you think that I've forgotten, we're going to go ahead and address row 7. You'll notice that on the sample page, row 7 has a cell that has been addressed and is being occupied. So we want to make sure that we go ahead and take care of row 7 now. Now, the reason that I've taken this long is because I want to make a point. The thing about Excel is that once you begin working with the ribbon and you begin formatting a spreadsheet, Excel has a tendency to remember the steps that you've taken, especially the last step that you've taken. So although it was a while ago when we created borders, the fact of the matter is Excel remembered that we created borders and it kept one of the features frozen. So we're going to come down to column D, row 7, and we're just going to click on that particular cell. You'll notice again that the name is D7. So if you're ever confused about being in the correct cell, when you click on it, just simply look over in the name box and you will see the name of the cell that you're in. All right, so what we want to do now is create borders. But instead of going through the whole dialog box and coming over here and clicking on the drop down as you see here, we're not going to do any of that. Why? Because we've done it already. And because we've done it already, Excel retained that last function used in memory. And as a result, it left the last border that we used highlighted or already ready to go. So now all you would have to do is click on it and you have your border. Okay, let's return our focus now back to the background. And as you can see, again, we have multiple colors. I'm going to duplicate this in the tutorial. So let's go back to the tutorial. Let's click on the merge cell, we now call the title cell. And we're going to refer once again to the dialog box. Now, when the dialog box opens, being again that we clicked on the font command group, it opened up on the font tab. Now, in the font tab, again, I was telling you earlier, that's the content that's located within the cell. You see a color. This writing is black. The color is black. Now, by default, that's always going to be black. All right. It's also bold. This is where these are the settings that we used earlier. All right. However, we want to focus on the field, which is the background. And I'm going once again, like I said, I'm going to duplicate the current sample, and I'm going to click here, and I'm going to now come over here. Now, the font being black and my field being dark, clearly you're not going to be able to see that title. So I want to lighten up that title. So once again, on the font, I'm going to change this from black to a greenish tint, and I'm going to click on it. And you'll now notice that I have a title that I can see. It's not white, it's not black, it's a little greenish, whatever, olive color, I guess. And the background is a dark teal or whatever color that is. It's dark. All right. So again, we're getting closer and closer. All right. Now, my title is a little darker than this, which is fine. I'm going to leave it. So now we're going to come to row 2. So on row 2, I'm going to actually show you a different way. And I'm not going to use the dialog box for the field or for the font or inside of the cells. I'm actually going to use the home ribbon. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to click on cell A2, hold down on the left side of the mouse, and scroll over to D. All right? But instead of going to the dialog box, we're going to actually go up here. This is a paint bucket. At least to me, it looks like a paint bucket. Now you'll notice that as I hover over it, you see fill color. So actually the background is located in this paint bucket. Now I don't want to click on the paint bucket just yet. I actually want to click on the arrow next to the paint bucket. All right. And when I do that, you can see color. All right. In this particular case, I'm going to click here. This is the color I want. And now you can see that color exists. All right. Now, what you don't realize is something very interesting and unique just happened. When I clicked on the drop-down arrow located next to the paint bucket to insert color into row 2, the paint bucket changed. In other words, there's a color that is now presented under the paint bucket. And that color is the very same color that I used to place in row 2. At this point, I can do a number of things in Excel and come back to that paint bucket, and that very color will still be there as long as whatever I do don't involve me coming back and changing the color. All right? What does that mean? Well, if I were to come over here and do something, I'm just going to do an undo. Come over here and do something and decide, well, let me come back over here. I forgot to change the color here. I can actually come back over here, click on that particular cell, go up to the picture of the paint bucket, not the drop down, but the actual picture of the paint bucket, because that color is still present. Click on it and that color appears. And that is what I mean when I say that Excel retains its memory whenever you create different functions, as long as you do not go back over those functions and do something different. So now let's refer back to our sample page for the next step. You can see here that clearly there's additional content that needs to be input onto our spreadsheet. We're going to start by inputting supplies, quantity, cost, and total onto our tutorial page. Now, as you can see here, there is a difference between how it looks here and how it looks on the sample page. It is clearly standing out quite a bit more on the sample page. Well, we want to duplicate this exact look on the tutorial page. So we're going to start by clicking on cell A2, holding down on the mouse, scrolling all the way over to D. All right. And we're not going to use the dialog box. We basically know how that works, so I'm not going to basically go through all those steps. We're going to take a shortcut this time and go straight to the home ribbon. You'll notice that we're going to be dealing with fonts. So as a result, we're going to go to the font command group. And in the font command group, you have the styles. In other words, you'll notice that as we scroll down through here in the background, if you look at the spreadsheet, you can see that the fonts are changing as I scroll down through the list of names. We're going to, however, go back to where we were. All right. You'll also notice that beside the style are numbers. Well, these are the sizes. And as I, once again, just hovering over the numbers, scrolling through, they get larger and larger as I go down the numbers. We're going to stay on 14. And you also can change them by just clicking on the large A and the small a by going up and down. You'll notice that the size number changes. And over here we have bold, italic, and the underline. If I wanted them to look with an italic image, then I would click on the italic symbol. But I want them to be bold. All right. Now, if you were to go back to the sample page at this point, you can see a duplicate look. Referring back to the sample page, you can see that we need to continue inputting content. So let's go back to the tutorial. So we're going to start by listing the items under supplies. Now we're going to come over to quantity. I want you to take note, however, when I input the numbers under quantity, they will be aligned to the far right. We will come back later and do adjustments. So by default, Excel is built in to align everything that's input into a cell to the far right or the far left. So based on that, let's refer back over to the sample page. You can see that the fonts are slightly larger under supplies as well as under quantity, but you can also see that under quantity, they are aligned in the center of the cell. So we're going to address that. We're going to click on cell A3 and we're going to scroll down to A6 to address the font size for the supplies. And we're going to just go ahead and click on the letter A twice to get up to size 14. All right. We're going to come over now to quantity and we're going to again click on cell B3, hold down on the left side of the mouse, and do the same. Click on the large letter A twice to get up to size 14. And in this particular instance, we're going to also go ahead and align it to the center of the cell. Remember, this is the far right alignment, this is the far left, and this is the center. Now, I'm going to click away, and as we go back to see the sample, you basically have a duplicate page up until this point. Okay, going forward, we're going to actually format individual cells. You'll notice that when clicking over on the sample page, we have currency. Well, we want to duplicate this same data over to the tutorial. One thing about Excel, however, is that it does not recognize currency as you see it. Most people actually input currency using inputting the $ as well as the numbers. However, you don't have to do it that way, and we're going to show you exactly how to avoid having to do it that way. So we're going to scroll back over to the tutorial. Starting with cell C3, we're going to go ahead and begin inputting only the numbers, no $. Also, you're going to see something that is going to make you wonder if I'm doing things correctly. Don't get too excited. I'll explain to you at the end. All right. So we're going to input again only the numbers. And when I click away, you'll notice that the numbers deviated. We lost some of the numbers. Why? Because Excel does not recognize what I was doing as currency. Excel by default has a general setting for data. So if you input numbers, it's only going to recognize them as numbers, which is why most people always input $ as well as the numbers when they're inputting data into a cell. But to avoid that step and to be more efficient, we can actually format the cells to automatically reflect currency without inputting every aspect of the item in a cell. All right, let me show you how we're going to do that. Let's go ahead and click on C3 and scroll down to C6. And we're going to come up to the ribbon, the numbers command group, and we're going to click on the dialog box launcher. As always, when you click on a particular command group, it's going to open up on that particular tab. So it opened up on the numbers tab, and it gives you a list of options. Well, what do we want? We want currency. Now, when we clicked on currency, you can clearly see it gave us a sample of what the currency would look like in the cell. They're going to always be 2 decimal places, and the currency is going to look pretty much like this. All right, and it's going to always have a $. So let's click on OK, and you now have currency. However, there's still something that's very different from the sample page, so let's refer back to it. If you notice over here, the fonts are somewhat larger and they are aligned to the left of the cell. All right, so let's go back over here. They're already highlighted, so we don't have to scroll down or do any of that at this particular time. We simply come up to the home ribbon, go to the large letter A or the drop down. In this case, we're going to just click on the letter A twice and go to size 14. And we're going to click on the align all the way to the far left, and you now have a duplicate page up until this point. All right. As we near the end of this formatting session, we are now about to touch on an aspect of this particular spreadsheet that I know will benefit you in the future, and that is how to create formulas. And not just how to create formulas in a complicated way, but how to create formulas in a very easy and simple way. And this is where Excel really benefits its users. All right, so first let's go back to the sample page, and we're going to click on cell D3. So when we click on cell D3, if you were to look up here, and I'm going to remind you, this is the formula bar. if you were to look in the formula bar, you will see actually a formula. Now, that formula was actually created automatically by Excel. You did not have to study it, go to school to learn how to write formula. It was literally created by Excel by you simply inputting the request for what you needed. All right, so let's show you how that happened. We're going to click on cell D3. All right, and we're going to now click on this little FX. What this says is insert function. So we're going to click on it. Now you'll notice that when we clicked on it, an equal sign appeared here and it appeared in the formula bar. But not only did that appear, but a insert function box appeared. And inside the box, written in black, it says type a brief description of what you want to do. All right. So here we're going to use the keyboard and we're going to type that we want to multiply. So what is it that we want to multiply? We want to multiply the quantity of pens times the cost and get a total. And that's going to be 3 times 67 cents. So we're going to input the word multiply. Now, as long as you spell the word correctly, which I don't always do, you shouldn't have a problem. All right. So now that we've spelled multiply, we're going to scroll over and click on the button that says go. And you will see in this big box here that a specific word was highlighted. Now, the word is not usually even in this box. Maybe occasionally it may be, but for the most part, the word appeared and it was highlighted. And the word was product. Product in this particular case is part of the formula that is going to multiply and give us the answer that we're looking for. All right. So product is the word that we're looking for. And we're now going to click OK. Now, once that happens, you see the complete formula appears in cell D3. All right. It's very, very sensitive. So please do not touch this cell until we've completed the process. All right. Because if you do, you could actually interfere with the formula and it is extremely difficult to straighten out. So let's see what this formula says. It says equal product cell B3, which is this cell, times, which is a semicolon, cell C3. So it is basically multiplying cell B3 times cell C3 to get an answer. So you can see it here as well. So we're going to click OK. And you can now see that you have 2.01. Now, clearly we have not formatted these particular cells. So we're going to go ahead and do that before we go any farther. So we're going to go ahead now, and we can click on it now because we have an answer. We're going to click on cell D3, left click, hold down, and go actually all the way down to 7 because 7 is going to also contain currency. All right. And what are we going to do? We're going to actually not use the dialog box this time. Earlier, we used the dialog box. And we came down and we said currency and we got what we needed. We're not going to do that this time. In this particular case, which we could have done earlier, we're going to actually go straight to the ribbon and we're going to stay in the numbers group. But instead of going here, we're going to go here to this drop down arrow. All right. And as you can see, it has currency listed. So we're going to click on currency. And what do you have? You have currency. All right. We're going to now go over to the font command group and we're going to click on the A twice to enlarge it to size 14. And we're going to go ahead and align it far to the left as well. All right. Now, everything from this point on will be aligned to the left and it will look as though it is currency going forward. Let's continue now by inserting formulas into the remaining cells. We're not going to insert a formula here just yet, only here. All right. Now, of course, we can take the same route as before by clicking on the insert function and using the box here but it would take far too long and it's actually very unnecessary. So we're not going to use that approach. We're going to actually click on the cell that already has a formula, and we're going to actually copy the formula to the remaining cells. And we're going to do it by simply positioning our mouse to the far right corner of the cell. Now, it's important that you recognize the type plus sign you need to see. It's not this plus sign. It actually is this plus sign, all right? Once you see this plus sign, you're going to hold down on the left side of your mouse, and you're going to drag it to the cells that you are wishing to input a formula into, all right? And you're going to let it go at that point. Now you can see that a formula is in all of the desired cells. Before putting the final touches on this spreadsheet, I would like to take this time to thank you for trusting me as your instructor. I truly hope that you walk away having the confidence to move on to the next level. It has been my pleasure to assist you, and I hope that you join me on level 2 of Microsoft Excel Basics. Now let's continue. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come down to cell D7. And unlike the cells above, we're going to actually use a different formula for cell D7. Here we're going to actually total what we have in the previous cells. And we're going to do that by actually also creating a formula, but not by going here to the insert function, but rather by going to the home ribbon and moving over to the auto sum function. All right. So be sure to have your mouse positioned on column D, row 7. That's cell D7. And we're going to click over to where it says auto sum. There's a drop down arrow. You want to click on that drop down arrow and you want to click sum. What that does is actually, you'll notice it highlights all the cells above the cell that you're looking to put the formula in. And it also creates a formula in the desired cell D7. Now, whatever you do, please do not touch the spreadsheet once you hit the auto sum button, all right? Because again, it can corrupt the formula and it will be extremely difficult to correct, all right? So noticing that it's now highlighted, what it is actually doing is saying that these are the cells that we're going to total to come up with the answer for this particular cell, all right? So make sure that at this point you hit the enter button on your keyboard. And by doing that, you now have your total. So let's test it. We're going to come over to the quantity of staplers, and we're going to change that 1 to 4 and click away. And you'll notice that the total for the staplers changed to $14, and the total for the entire spreadsheet changed to 162.26 cents. Right? So let's change the number of pens to 6 and click away. And once again, you'll notice that the total for the pens has changed to $4.02, and the total for this entire spreadsheet has changed to $164.27. Clearly it works. All right. So if we were to now come and change the cost of the pens to 87 cents and click away, you'll notice now that the total continues to change, and we're going to change the cost of the tablets to $185. Click away, and again, everything changes. So the spreadsheet truly works. As a side note, but very useful information just the same, like all aspects of Excel, especially that you witnessed in this tutorial, there are multiple ways to actually change the content in a cell. Earlier, you saw me go to the formula bar, click inside, and hit the backspace key on my keyboard to remove the content that was in a cell and then change it to something else. However, there are other ways to also change the content. In fact, the preferred way, I believe by most, is to quickly double click on the left side of your mouse, and you'll notice that a line begins to blink. Well, when that line begins to blink, if you were to look at the status bar below, you will see that it has changed to edit. That means you are now able to make changes to that particular cell. You will go to your keyboard, hit the backspace key as needed, to remove whatever items or partial item that is in the cell and insert the value you desire to replace it, and then move on to the next cell. So this concludes our session for the basics of Microsoft Excel Level 1. I truly hope that you learned something and that you will return for Part 2, which is Level 2 of Basic Microsoft Excel. I appreciate you choosing me as your guide, and I certainly look forward to you tuning in again. Thank you.